If you're a cyclist, you're an active sitter. And what that means is there's a good chance you're developing the same mobility limitations that would increase the risk of injury and reduce the performance of your average 9-to-5 office worker who spends a lot of time in seated postures. So what we're going to do in today's video is give you 3 specific mobilizations that you can perform as a cyclist to improve your performance and make sure we're reducing your risk of experiencing pain and nagging injury. Hi guys, welcome to Stout Sport Performance. I'm Austin Stout, and in today's video, I'm giving you 3 mobilizations designed specifically to help cyclists improve their performance and reduce their risk of injury. Now, the bonus of this video is if you can start including these mobilizations into a habitual routine, or at the very least doing them as warm-ups and cool-downs to your cycling workouts, you're going to see a lot of these instances of normal persistent pain that we have that don't qualify as injury but are annoying and frustrating. A lot of these things are going to dissipate as we continue to perform these mobilizations on a consistent basis. So try to make it a routine, something you're doing at least for about 10 to 15 minutes a day. Now, before I start giving you these mobilizations, I want to remind you about the concept we talked about in the intro, this idea of cyclists being active sitters. So even though we're active and we're moving while we're on the bike, we're still in a seated position of hip flexion and a lot of global flexion throughout the body, meaning the shoulders become in this rounded forward posture, our back becomes rounded, and we take a lot of the same positions and postures that you would think about seeing in somebody working in an office, typing at a desk. Now, of course, that person is sitting in a very inactive way, so these two things aren't exactly the same, but the positions and postures that we take are going to lead to some similar adaptations in the body, meaning a lot of the same mobility limitations that these two groups of people have are going to be really similar. So ironically, these mobilizations aren't just great for cyclists, but are also great for people spending a lot of time in an office-based environment where they do a lot of sitting. So the first mobilization that we're going to do here is called the couch stretch. And this is, if you can only do one of these mobilizations on a consistent basis, make it this one, do it for 3 to 5 minutes a day. You're going to see some unbelievable differences in your performing capabilities, and you're going to feel a whole of a heck of a lot better if you can mix these in consistently. And so the point of this exercise is to improve our ability to extend the hip and also remind our glutes to help us extend the hip. Oftentimes when we do a lot of sitting, our hamstrings can take the responsibility and our lower back can take the responsibility of extending the hip because our glutes can fall asleep, so to speak. And this is going to be a great mobilization, not just to help us extend our hip and get into a good hip flex position, but also remind our glutes that they are primarily responsible for us extending our hip throughout the day. So we're going to start here by placing our knee within the corner of a wall and floor behind us, making sure our shin is lined up against that wall as well. And with the opposite knee here on the ground, we're just going to squeeze our back glute, holding for a few seconds, breathing in as we squeeze, and then let that tension go as you breathe out and relax into this position. You could spend a little bit of time here, but once we feel comfortable with this position, we're going to bring that opposite leg to the outside of our hands, and this is where we're going to spend most of our time in this mobilization. The goal is going to be that we squeeze our back glute and press our hip down to the ground, trying to form one line from the knee to the hip to our shoulder. And it's okay if you can't do that right away, but if you spend a couple of minutes here, you're going to notice a greater ability to extend the hip. It's going to feel different and it's going to look different with a little bit of time. So spend most of your time here, again, contracting the glute, squeezing as you breathe in, and as you breathe out, let all of that tension go and try to sink deeper into that stretch. Now, after we spend a few minutes here, we can then work on all of the tissues in that anterior chain on the front side of the body by placing a foam roller here on that left side hand, and then working our way up to a nice tall posture, trying to again line up that knee, hip, and shoulder, making sure that we're pulling that pelvis back as well to help increase that stretch and tension we get on the front side of the body. Now, if you can include some glute tension here, then you're doing really, really good. But don't rush to this position. You don't need to. The most important position in this couch stretch exercise is going to be the one with the hands on the ground, where we actively squeeze that back glute to get ourselves into an extended position. So that is mobilization 1, the couch stretch, to help us improve our hip extension. It's going to be the most important one if we're people that are spending a lot of time sitting, or if we're spending a lot of time on the bike. So make that one the priority. Now, ironically, even though we're in hip flex positions on the bike, we end up losing our end range hip flexion. So the second mobilization we're going to do is one I've learned from Kelly Start at the ready state, called the can opener, or the hip opener. And all we're going to do is place our back knee. So we're going to start by placing our right knee behind our hip, making sure it stays on the ground. And make sure the ball of your right foot also stays on the ground here throughout the exercise. Bring your left knee to a position where it's directly over your left foot, and then reach with your right arm to the right side to help open up your hip. Now from this position, push your knee away from the body and turn from this point at your hip to the right side. And what you're going to notice immediately is this entire region here is going to feel like it's being cracked open. And that's why it's called the hip opener or the can opener. We're going to hang out here for about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. And then after we've done that, we're going to start rotating towards our knee and rotating back away from our knee. This is going to be a great exercise to help us restore a little bit of end range hip flexion that we may have lost throughout our cycling, spending time in some of those middle ranges of hip flexion. So this is going to be mobilization 2. And again, couch stretch is the priority, regain that hip extension. And then when we've done that, we can work on regaining some hip flexion. So the last mobilization here that we're going to do is going to work on our T-spine mobility. Now your T-spine is extremely important to having a functional back. And one of the things that happens if we spend too much time in seated postures, and you definitely see this when you're on the bike, is we get into these rounded back postures, and we need to restore our ability to extend at the spine, and especially in that area of the spine, the T-spine, directly between your shoulder blades, that middle portion of the back. So we're going to perform here a T-spine extension exercise by taking a foam roller. If you don't have a foam roller, you could use a yoga mat or a couple of rolled up towels. And we're going to place that here directly between our shoulder blades. Now, we want to have a wall or something behind us that we can push against or grab onto for a little bit of support. And we're going to make sure that our feet stay planted to the ground and our knees are going to remain in a bent position. Now start this exercise with your butt on the floor, and with time you can raise the glutes off slightly to get a little bit more pressure into that mid-back region. So we're going to start by giving ourselves a bear hug here and tucking our chin to our chest. And we're going to start here by gently smashing that area between our shoulder blades, rocking back and forth, up and down. Then after about a minute here, we're going to reach the arms overhead, trying to extend our chest towards the ceiling and press actively against that box behind you to now extend your T-spine and extend your back. And again, with time, you can raise the hips slightly if you want to get a little bit more pressure into those tissues at the mid-back. But the general idea is just that we get into a global position of extension in the back to restore and get us into a position opposite of the one that we find ourselves in on the bike, which is that globally flexed, rounded shoulder, rounded back posture. Good. So again, in total, about 2 to 3 minutes there. So those are our 3 mobilizations designed to help you improve your performance and reduce your risk of injury as a cyclist. As we've said, these would be great mobilizations for somebody who spends a lot of time in a seated posture, even if it's an inactive posture like working at a desk. Try to include these on a daily basis, especially couch stretch and your ability to extend the hip. That's going to make a massive improvement for you in day-to-day feeling and also your collective performance. So I thank you guys for watching. If you're interested in more videos, more content like this, make sure you subscribe and like this video, and feel free to leave us comments if you have any questions or other topics that you would like us to address. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time at Stout Sport Performance.